Hello. The Heart of Texas Foundation welcomes you to Deep in the Heart. Each week at this time, we focus on giving encouragement to everyone who is locked up somewhere in a Texas jail, prison, or penitentiary. Stay tuned.
People get ready, there's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to it eases a humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord, yeah.
Hey, if you're locked up tonight, I invite you to settle down, put your stuff aside, and join me in a devotion just for the incarcerated. I'm Grove, and this comes to you from Deep in the Heart.
People get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and board them. There's room for all of the love and lost the youth, yeah.
My friend, and welcome. Glad you stopped by. Come on up on the porch here at Rainbow Cabin on the little lazy creek I call Deeper Shallow Creek. You know why? And it looks pretty shallow right now. Sometimes it's deeper when it rains, but we sure haven't had much rain here in the country out here west of Houston, Texas here lately, and the old Deeper Shallow Creek is more shallow than anything else. And I hope it doesn't dry up completely as it did this past summer for a little while. Come on up. We've got a little office out here in the country in our cabin and do a little bit of work here each day for the Heart of Texas Foundation and preparing our Deep in the Heart radio programs. And we also have a little office in Fulshire where we work as well on our foundation. We got a sporadic internet connection out here in the country, but enough to keep us going. Boy, it was cold on the creek a couple of nights this past week. Wow. I had a heat lamp going over the washer and dryer out on the porch, which is where our washer and dryer sit, and I put a heating pad out in a box on the back porch for the barn cat we call Cloudy Dawn. But Cloudy Dawn would have none of the heat pad. He likes to sleep under the cabin here when it's cold and in my rocking chair on the back porch when it's warm. The exciting thing on the porch this week is that Shelly, our mother raccoon, finally brought her babies up onto the porch to help them begin eating as she weans them. Picture this at night, this big old creaky old back porch out here over the creek, and here comes not only Miss Shelly for her nightly snack of cat food, but their 3 little furry raccoon kittens skittishly followed her onto the porch. And because she allowed me to come out there and lay food at her feet, the little kittens stayed on the porch with her, though they were really scared. But they stayed right under her and kept looking up at me with their big eyes surrounded with that black patch over them, and they gradually quit being afraid. I wanted to say, like the angels over the Bethlehem fields in the Bible always do, they say, "Fear not, I bring cat food, which shall bring you great joy, little ones." I haven't named all the babies yet, but that's my proclivity, is to name things as my family kids me about. So I'm going to be naming those 3 babies. But I can't tell them apart yet because they're a wonder to watch as you try to figure out which one is which. Isn't it amazing how God has made all babies? I don't care what kind of animal they are, what kind of creature, but all his babies are beyond wonderful, aren't they? A guy is always a little reluctant to use words like cute and precious because we don't talk like that in a deer stand or on the 50-yard line or while casting into a feeding frenzy out in the East Bay at Matagorda. But I have to say, these little raccoon babies are definitely beyond cute. Okay, there, I said it. Well, they just are, my friend, and I see the hand of God in their faces, the wonder of his mind, his intellect, his attention to detail, his love of color, his love of ingenious patterns. Imagine creating a creature that has his own black mask like the Lone Ranger. And the way a baby raccoon can pick up a single piece of cat food with the same dexterity. He has 5 little fingers as I do. But he can climb a tree so much better, can't he? It was a breathless moment, and I know that sounds a little childish, but to be in the presence of little wild animals like that, knowing that I was no doubt the very first human being they had ever encountered, and to hear their little teeth crunching that cat food. Old Cloudy Dawn, the barn cat, just sat there watching them, since he and the mother coon are pretty good friends now, though they speak different languages. I guess any baby of hers is a friend of Cloudy's. He's decided the porch is something he can share. Yeah, and a few days ago I was privileged to go and speak in Dallas, actually in Arlington, at a wonderful church, Lake Ridge Community Church, to a large men's breakfast up there. They had a real manly feed up there early in the morning, and it was a great time of fellowship with men from all backgrounds, and some were even ex-inmates who had found Christ in prison and had come out as totally changed men. It was great to be with them, and I send my regards to all of you guys if you may be listening up there in that area. Bethlehem is in the news a lot right now, isn't it? Of course. It was the birthplace of the baby Jesus, and as I mentioned last week, Bethlehem was already some 3,000 years old by the time Mary and Joseph walked into town that evening or that afternoon when they arrived. The stone houses were already ancient, as was Jerusalem. The streets were ancient, the rock which surrounded them. It was the building material of choice, wasn't it? Rock, rock, rock everywhere. Archaeologists also tell us that a small wall was built around Bethlehem, as was the custom of the Canaanite tribes who settled in Palestine back then. Did you know we first meet Bethlehem in the very first book of the Bible, in Genesis, where we see that Abraham's beloved wife Rachel died giving birth to Benjamin. And they were passing through Bethlehem. Here's another birth that almost happened, in this case, almost happened in Bethlehem. And they were passing through on a trip of some kind, and the Bible says that Abraham buried Rachel in a little tomb by the side of the road. And they say, I haven't seen it myself, that a tomb is right there to this day that is claimed to be the tomb of Rachel. And it can be seen even now. There are other mentions of Bethlehem in the Bible, notably the story of Boaz and Ruth, if you care to look that one up. And of course we know that Bethlehem was not Jesus' hometown, really. It was his birthplace, but his hometown was in Nazareth. That's where his parents made their home. That's where Jesus' little room was probably all prepared, just like we do today, for when that new one is expected. And mothers and dads decorate the room in pink or blue, or if you're Jewish, you don't do anything until the baby arrives. That's just tradition, I understand from my Jewish friends. And so when people said, "Where are you from, Mary?" her answer would have been, "I'm from Nazareth. My husband is a carpenter there. We are Nazarenes." What a time to have a baby. You're not even home. Not around your family, your own mother, brothers, kinfolk, all the folks that come to help with the new child, sometimes to help even deliver the baby. But you're out of town because you have to go sign some government documents, and they won't even waiver you if you're pregnant. What a gal she must have been to pick up and say, "Okay, let's go." But of course, the most stunning mention of Bethlehem is a certifiably prophetic one, a messianic prophecy that is as clearly written as a Mother Goose rhyme. The mention of Bethlehem I refer to is found, if you wanted to turn to it in your own Bible, is in the Old Testament before Jesus ever came. Micah, the little book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 2. The archaeologists say this book is written at least 750 years before Christ was born, before this night in Bethlehem. And remember what the prophet says in this ancient scroll in the Old Testament. It's a prophecy, and it says, "You, Bethlehem Ephrathah, you fruitful little town full of bread bakers," that's what those words mean, "you are a little town among the thousands of towns in Judah. But out of you he will come forth unto me, one who is to be ruler of his people, whose origins are of old, even from ancient times." And the verse goes on to say, "And he," that is the one who is to be born in Bethlehem Ephrathah, "he will stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of Yahweh, the Lord God Almighty, and in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God." and his people will live securely, for his greatness will reach to the ends of the earth, and he will be their peace. So if you're still waiting for the Messiah of your own, and you look to the Old Testament as your guide, remember that you will have to be able to document that your Messiah can prove he is a direct descendant of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and David. So be keeping those genealogies, if you will, my friend, and prove that he was born in Bethlehem Ephrathah. And then you'll have to wait until his name and his greatness reaches to the ends of the earth. As we've talked about in previous radio programs, no one in all of human history has so literally fulfilled just this one small messianic passage like Jesus Christ has fulfilled it. Last week I told you, or the week before I think it was, that I would tell you a little bit more about the Heart of Texas Foundation as we close out this year. Because at Christmas time, we think about the gifts that Jesus Christ has given us with his birth. And we come back to the manger to give him our thanks and praise and worship, as did the wise men from the east, just as they brought precious offerings worth probably lots of money, which no doubt helped the poor parents provide for the baby Jesus in his earliest years. I'm sure each of us has given newborn babies a little sum of money now and then, or a savings certificate or something like that. And that's what these wise men did. And I'm sure it helped poor Mary and Joseph get along in the early years and provide for that boy. This week, I want to tell you, as a matter of praise to the God of the Bible, what the Heart of Texas Foundation is, just very quickly. And next week, I'll tell you perhaps more of the amazing story of how the Heart of Texas Foundation came about in the last couple of years, how it was born, and how even this radio program is part of the miracle. And the story, even as I sit here, my friend, is still being written, and you wouldn't be here on the porch unless maybe you knew a little bit of this amazing tale. But today, what is the Heart of Texas Foundation, and what do we do besides sponsor and produce this radio program? The Heart of Texas Foundation is a growing group of people, perhaps like yourself, whose hearts go out to the broken lives all around us. Who are they? The victims of crime. To the ones who have to suffer through it as victims in the free world, and to those who are the victims of their own crimes, those who are justifiably condemned to prison for their acts. Both sides of the table, both sides of the bars, there are victims. And our hearts go out to all victims. We at the Heart of Texas Foundation want to see fewer victims. Let me, by the way, pour you some coffee. I don't think I've done that yet. And here's some. I'm going to get myself some. Oh, yes. This is nice, isn't it? What a wonderful little cabin God has given us. We at the Heart of Texas Foundation want to see fewer victims, and we want to see more healed victims, more restoration to the victimized and their families. And we want to see more people changed while they are in prison, so that when they get out, they will never victimize anyone again. We work to do all of that in a very few focused ways. As for the perpetrators, those who have victimized others, we believe that those who have committed crimes are broken when they go into prison, and they will be broken when they come out, unless they find a true spiritual transformation while in prison. True spiritual transformation leads to moral rehabilitation, doesn't it? A moral person doesn't take your car, your property, your life. A moral person wants to do the right thing to help others. We believe that the only true rehabilitation in a prisoner, a victimizer, is moral rehabilitation, and moral rehabilitation comes through a true change of heart. You can have a change of mind, and it will last for a while. But a change of heart, a true spiritual birth, is permanent and lasts forever. It's the same heart transplant that is described in Ezekiel 36, 26, and 27, where the God of the Bible causes a spiritual transformation in the heart of the prisoner. Listen to what that verse says. I'll just read it. It's one of my favorites, and I quote it often in prison. Ezekiel 36, 26. Here's just one of the many ways the God of the Bible describes this spiritual transformation. Jesus called it being born again. Here's what Ezekiel was told it is. God is telling Ezekiel, I will give you a new heart, and I will put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your current heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. Some translations say warm, responsive flesh. And I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. Listen to that. God is saying, I'm going to take out that heart of stone you have. Not that you're necessarily a mean, hard-hearted person. You've got a heart of stone. It has never pumped anything spiritual. I'm going to take that heart out and put in a heart that will pump something spiritual. And for the first time, a new kind of blood is going to flow in your spiritual self. And God says, I'm also going to remove the spirit that's in you right now. In a way, he's saying, you've got a spirit in you, but it's not my spirit. I'm going to take out your spirit that you've got with you now, and I'm going to put in my spirit. And then verse 27 goes on to say, and then after I do this, you will want to follow my advice. You'll want to read the Bible. You'll want to follow my decrees and my ordinances. And I will save you, it says in verse 29, from all your uncleanness. So that's what the Heart of Texas Foundation volunteers want to do, is to see that moral rehabilitation occurs whenever we can help it, whenever we can fertilize it, seed it, plant it in the hearts of men and women, both in and out of prison, who have been victimized. When the heart is truly changed, everything changes. I can say that in my own experience, in my own life. Families are reconciled, prisons are safer. As men and women in prison come to Christ and the moral change occurs, there's less violence in the prison. Safer prisons are less expensive to operate. There's lower turnover among staff. There are fewer medical bills. The prisons must pay to hospitals to stitch up, cut up inmates. Fewer victims means more peace in the prisons and at home. Children are affected when their dads and mothers come to Christ while the dads and mothers are in prison. And even the victims of the original crime can, with time, begin to deal with the challenge of forgiveness. It really helps when a perpetrator says, I am so sorry. When the prisoner is freed, he wants to restore, not wreck. When he gets out of prison, he wants to bless, not distress others. When the new heart has been transplanted and implanted by a spiritual transformation experience with the God of the Bible. When we want to lock them up and throw away the key, we're basically saying, don't help them want to be better when they get out. Let them rot while they're in there. And the problem with that approach is that they will be even more rotten when they get out if something doesn't happen to them while they're in there. I've heard my friend Warden Burl Cain at Angola Penitentiary, which is America's largest maximum security prison, he says, they were mean when they came here, and they will be mean when they get out unless something happens while we've got them. Unless they have a spiritual transformation which leads to moral rehabilitation, they will be mean, if not meaner, when they get out. You better hope we can change them, he says, because they'll be going home to a neighborhood, and it might be yours. And so to help men, women, and teenagers encounter a life-changing event for the better while they're in prison, the Heart of Texas Foundation goes into prisons to take the message of hope and encouragement in Jesus Christ. And we go into prisons in 4 ways: through special events where we show the Heart of Texas movie that was produced by Senator Dan Patrick, a true story, a documentary of some things that happened here in our area and west of Houston. And then we give a message of hope and reconciliation after the movie. The second thing we do is through the development and support of the historic Darrington Penitentiary Seminary, which we fund. Heart of Texas volunteers and donors fund the seminary at the Darrington Penitentiary, which is in partnership with Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Fort Worth. I'll tell you more about that another time. And thirdly, through our Prisoners Bible Correspondence course. That's another way we go into prisons. And then we go into prisons with our day-long seminars for inmates, both men and women, on the necessity of forgiveness, the virtues of forgiveness, and the health-giving aspects of forgiveness. And then finally, with our One Day with God kids camps, where we are in partnership with Forgiven Ministry out of North Carolina. We go into Texas prisons and help bring children to be with their moms or their dads in men's and women's prisons. Did you know, in my own experience, folks, probably 95 to 98% of the people in the prisons in Texas Department of Criminal Justice, they're nearly all parents. Even the teens raise their hands, they're parents also. Everybody's a mother or a daddy in prison. Kind of changes the way you think about it, doesn't it? There are children out there involved, and they are victims too. The message of how God changes the hearts of men and women is kind of clearly portrayed in Senator Patrick's movie, The Heart of Texas. And we out here in the country are the people in that film. It's a true story. Some people say is kind of hard to believe, but for those of us who lived it, we're just as amazed at what God has chosen to do with an unexpected tragedy and a bunch of nobodies from a little cow town out here. If you haven't seen the Heart of Texas movie produced by Senator Patrick, it's available at no charge on our website. If you give us a donation of any amount whatsoever, or call us and say you don't have any money, you just like to have one, we will be happy to send you one courtesy of Senator Dan Patrick. The Heart of Texas Foundation.org. And just leave off the word the. It's heartoftexasfoundation.org. It was born, our foundation was born out of the reaction around the world to that documentary. And it certainly changed my own life and the lives of many other people as well. The movie, The Heart of Texas, gave birth to the foundation, which is in itself a separate but related part of the Heart of Texas story. Folks, that's all the time I've got tonight to tell you about the foundation. I want to thank the Clenard family, Ralph and Mary Clenard, for sponsoring our show tonight. We love you, dear folks. They go into prisons with us from time to time. We need your help. The Heart of Texas Foundation needs your help to continue our work. And we ask you to help us by praying for us. And that brings us back to Bethlehem, where our hearts need to be tonight as we think about what happened so long ago and the gift to the world. And next time we get together, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Bethlehem and a wonderful poem I've got in store to read for you. Need a Bible? Write to me. Look forward to seeing you next week right here at KKHT, The Word in Houston. The count's cleared. I know you're going to have to go. It's time for me to rack up too. This is Grove Norwood from the Heart of Texas Foundation wishing you a blessed good night. Sleep well.
Now there ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who's hard on mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances are thinner, 'cause there's no hiding place from the kingdom stone. Oh, people get ready, there's a train coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear these souls are humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord.